In this Kelsoft TimeAid video, I'm going to talk about the QuickBooks Web Connector and how to back it up so that you can quickly recover from a PC crash. I'll start with this overview of how the Web Connector is configured. When you install your QWC file to enable the Web Connector, the configuration is written into two places. The file and owner IDs are written into the QuickBooks company data file. The Web Connector entries themselves are written into the Windows registry under the current user. The typical registry path for these entries is at the bottom of the diagram. It's standard good practice to regularly back up your company data file. However, the specific registry entries for the Web Connector are not usually backed up. Now, if your PC crashes, you get a new one and reinstall QuickBooks. But when you go to reinstall the QWC file, you'll get a QBWC 1039 error. There's a separate video on how to resolve that. By having a backup of the Web Connector configuration, you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble. Okay, let's look at a sample setup with QuickBooks. And we have here a demo company, and I'm going to show you the integrated application we've set up for TimeAid by going to Edit Preferences, Integrated Application, Company Preferences, and there's the entry there for Kelsoft TimeAid QBWS-5. I'll close this dialog and we'll launch the Web Connector. And the second entry here is the one for this particular company. Typically, of course, people have just one, but in my example I've got a few. So the second one has this entry with the -5, and it corresponds to the name of the demo company. Now I'm going to use the Windows Registry Editor to back up this entry in the Web Connector. So I type in the program name, and it shows up in this list, and now I launch it. So starting from H key, current user, I open Software, I open the Intuit folder, the QB Web Connector folder, the SOAP Web Services folder, and finally I select the Kelsoft TimeAid QBWS-5 folder. To back it up, I right-click the folder, click the Export selection, and here I'm going to reuse a backup I've already made. I'm going to overwrite that. Okay, now we have our backup. Well, let's go ahead and test that. Make sure it's a good backup. First, we're going to go back to the scenario where you had the PC that crashed. In that case, you're not going to have an entry in your Web Connector registry at all for this. So we're just going to delete this entry here. So I'll close this, and I'll close the Web Connector. So if you had the PC crash and you open up your web services, you would not have an entry in here for your company data file. So now, how do we restore our backup? To restore, you're going to use the same tool you used for backup, the Registry Editor. So we'll launch that again. And here, we just need to go back to the File menu and import our backup file, which is right here. And we get the message that it was successful, and we close that message and we close the editor. And now let's relaunch the Web Connector, and we'll see that our entry for Kelsoft TimeAid QBWS-5 is back in the list of entries. It matches up with the company file that we have open, and we'll go ahead and test it. So we're doing a transfer now. Things are working again, and I hope I've convinced you that backing up your Web Connector configuration is a good idea. Thank you for using Kelsoft TimeAid.